The first sign wasn't a spacecraft or a message from the stars. It was music. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in her observatory at SETI's Allen Telescope Array, listening to what should have been ordinary stellar radio emissions transformed into an impossibly precise series of harmonics. The sound filled the small control room, a crystalline melody that made the coffee in her mug vibrate in perfect concentric rings. "Are you getting this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper as she reached for the recording controls. Her colleague, Dr. James Kumar, was already running spectral analyses, his dark eyes reflecting the cascade of data flooding his screens. "It's not random," he said, fingers flying across his keyboard. "The pattern repeats every 147 seconds, but each iteration is slightly different, like variations on a theme." "Sarah, this is artificial," she finished, "and it's coming from just beyond Mars' orbit." Within hours, observatories worldwide confirmed the signal. Within days, the source revealed itself. The object that emerged from the darkness of space defied conventional physics, a massive crystalline structure that seemed to sing with its own internal light, refracting sunlight into complex patterns that pulsed in sync with its transmitted harmonies. Earth's governments scrambled to respond. Military satellites tracked its approach, while diplomats argued over first contact protocols. But the vessel, if that's what it was, made no aggressive moves. It simply took up position in high Earth orbit and waited, its song growing more complex, more insistent. Dr. Chen found herself at the heart of humanity's response team, working alongside linguists, physicists, and military specialists in a hastily assembled facility in Nevada. The challenge wasn't just understanding the visitors. It was finding a way to communicate with beings who seemed to experience reality itself through resonance and vibration. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a holographic display showing the crystal ship's structural analysis. "The entire vessel is one giant resonance chamber. These beings don't just use sound. They are sound, crystallized into matter." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Maya Patel, a quantum physicist with a background in classical music, noticed that the aliens' transmissions followed patterns similar to Earth's musical scales, but extended into dimensions human instruments couldn't reach. "They're not just sending us messages," Maya explained, her excitement evident as she played a modified version of the alien symphony. "They're sending us their physics, their mathematics, their entire way of understanding the universe, all encoded in harmonic relationships." Using this insight, the team began composing responses, mathematical proofs expressed in pure tone, basic physical constants transformed into melodies. The alien ship's songs changed, becoming simpler, more focused, as if encouraging their efforts. Then came the day they received their first clear message, decoded through Maya's harmonic matrices. The beings called themselves the Harmonious, and they hadn't come by chance. They'd detected Earth's growing electromagnetic emissions, our radio and television broadcasts, our satellite communications, all of which, to them, were like a new voice joining a universal chorus. But their message wasn't just one of greeting. Hidden in the complexity of their harmonies was a warning that chilled Sarah to her bone. Something was coming, something that threatened both their species. The Harmonious had fled their home systems, searching for allies against an enemy they called the Void Singers, beings that consumed the very frequencies that gave their universe structure. "We need to understand," Sarah insisted during an emergency briefing with military and political leaders. "The Harmonious aren't just warning us about an invasion. They're telling us that reality itself is under attack. These Void Singers, they don't just destroy planets or civilizations. They unravel the fundamental forces that hold matter together." The evidence was in the data they'd been sent, recordings of whole star systems going silent, their quantum frequencies disrupted until atoms could no longer maintain coherent structures. The Void Singers were a cancer in the symphony of space-time, and they were spreading. General Laura Martinez, the newly appointed head of Earth's Defense Initiative, leaned forward in her chair. "And these Harmonious believe we can help. What can we possibly offer against something that destroys reality itself? Dr. Patel spoke up, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Something unique. They've studied our transmissions, our music, our way of processing sound and frequency. Humans have something they've never encountered before. We can improvise. Where the harmonious experience reality as fixed harmonic relationships, we create new patterns, new combinations. We make music that breaks rules and still works. Sarah nodded, understanding dawning. We're not just potential allies. We might be the key to fighting back. The harmonious can teach us to manipulate the fundamental frequencies of the universe, and we can teach them how to change the song. As if in response to this revelation, the crystal ship above Earth began a new symphony, one that mixed alien harmonics with fragments of human music, everything from classical orchestral pieces to jazz and electronic compositions. It was an offering, an invitation, and a call to arms all at once. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Research teams worldwide began studying the harmonious technology, learning to see sound as a tool for manipulating matter and energy. The aliens shared their knowledge freely, their crystalline envoys growing more adept at human-style communication, even as humans learned to think in harmonics and resonance. Sarah found herself working closely with a harmonious she nicknamed Crystal Bell, though its true name was a complex chord that took 3 minutes to play properly. Together, they began developing what would become the Symphony Project, humanity's first steps toward defending not just Earth, but the very fabric of reality itself. As she worked late one night, translating quantum equations into musical notation, Sarah caught Crystal Bell attempting to hum along to the jazz playing softly in her lap. The alien's crystalline structure sparkled with new patterns as it tried to follow the improvisational rhythms. "You find our music strange," she said, knowing the being could understand her words through their vibrations. The response came as a shimmer of harmonics that her translation software rendered into words. Strange, yes. Beautiful, yes. Unpredictable like stellar birth. Dangerous like supernova. Perfect for what comes. Perfect for survival. Sarah smiled, despite the weight of what they faced. Humanity had spent centuries looking to the stars, wondering if we were alone, hoping we might find friends or fearing we'd find enemies. Instead, we'd found partners in the greatest jazz improvisation of all time. A duet to save the universe. The real work was just beginning. But as she looked at the musical score taking shape on her screen, human notation interwoven with alien harmonics, she felt a surge of hope. Together, they would write a new symphony, one that would echo across the cosmos and remind the void that life, in all its chaotic, beautiful variations, would not go quietly into the night. The Symphony Project's main facility sprawled across the Nevada desert like a massive concert hall designed by aliens, which, in a way, it was. Its crystalline spires rose from the sand, each one tuned to a specific frequency that helped power the experimental defense systems being developed within. Dr. Sarah Chen had watched it grow from a handful of temporary buildings into this extraordinary hybrid of human and harmonious architecture over the past 6 months. Inside the central chamber, dubbed the Resonance Hall, Dr. Maya Patel stood before a 3-dimensional holographic display of sound waves. Her hands moved through the air like a conductor's, manipulating the patterns of energy that could potentially save both their species. Around her, a team of human scientists and crystalline harmonious worked in what could only be described as orchestrated chaos. The problem, Maya explained to the assembled team, isn't just teaching our systems to recognize the Void Singer's attack patterns. We need to create countermeasures that can adapt as quickly as they do. She gestured to a simulation showing how the enemy's discord could unravel matter at the quantum level. They don't just sing one song of destruction. They improvise. Crystal Bell, now the chief harmonious liaison, shimmed in agreement. Its crystalline form had taken on subtle human-like features over months of interaction, a sign of how both species were adapting to work together. Your jazz teaches us much. Harmony need not be fixed. Change can strengthen, not weaken. The breakthrough they needed came from an unexpected source. Dr. James Kumar had been studying historical musical traditions from around Earth when he noticed something remarkable. "Look at this," he said, pulling up analyses of ancient Indian ragas, West African drumming patterns, and Aboriginal songlines. Every culture on Earth developed ways to encode information in music, but they all did it differently. What if we're thinking too small? What if we need all of it? The idea sparked a revolution in their approach. Instead of trying to create a single perfect defense system, they began developing what they called the Harmony Protocol, a quantum defense network that could incorporate multiple musical traditions and mathematical systems simultaneously. Human creativity would provide the improvisation needed to counter the void singers, while harmonious technology would give it the power to affect reality at the quantum level. But the project faced more than just technical challenges. Cultural tensions emerged as different nations demanded their musical traditions be given priority in the system. The harmonious themselves struggled to adapt to human concepts of rhythm and discord, their crystalline forms sometimes fracturing under the stress of processing what they considered chaos. Sarah found herself mediating more disputes than solving equations. "We're missing the point," she announced during a particularly heated debate. "Music isn't about whose tradition is better. It's about how different voices come together. The void singers are strong because they destroy harmony. We'll be stronger because we create it." To demonstrate, she began playing recordings, a classical orchestra performing alongside traditional Chinese instruments, jazz musicians incorporating Indian classical rhythms, electronic music sampling indigenous songs. With each example, the harmonious in the room glowed brighter, their structures resonating with new patterns. "Your species fights through unity and difference," Crystal Bell observed, its voice carrying newfound warmth. "This is why we sought you. The void singers cannot comprehend strength through variance." The project gained new momentum. Teams worldwide began contributing their musical and mathematical knowledge to the Harmony Protocol. The Harmonious shared more of their technology, teaching humans how to grow crystal structures that could channel and amplify sonic energy. These crystals, when combined with human-designed quantum computers, could generate fields capable of reinforcing the fundamental frequencies that held matter together. Testing began in stages. Small-scale experiments showed promise. Areas protected by the Harmony Protocol became more stable at the quantum level, resistant to attempts to disrupt their basic structure. But scaling up proved challenging. The energy requirements were enormous, and synchronizing the various musical elements across large areas required computing power beyond anything humanity had achieved before. Sarah worked tirelessly with Crystal Bell, pushing the boundaries of both human and harmonious understanding. They developed new mathematical models that bridged the gap between traditional music theory and quantum mechanics. The harmonious learned to appreciate the beauty in chaos, while humans gained deeper insight into the musical nature of reality itself. One evening, as they reviewed test data, Crystal Bell made an observation that changed everything. "Your oceans," it said, displaying a visualization of Earth's tidal patterns. "They already sing. Your planet harmonizes with its moon. Its core resonates. Its atmosphere vibrates. Earth itself is an instrument." The revelation led to a fundamental shift in their approach. Instead of trying to impose artificial harmonies, they could work with Earth's natural frequencies. The planet's magnetic field, its atmospheric oscillations, even the rhythmic patterns of human activity, all could be incorporated into the Harmony Protocol. Progress accelerated. The first full-scale test created a protective resonance field around a small island in the Pacific. Monitoring stations worldwide recorded the effect, a subtle strengthening of reality itself, as if the very atoms of the protected zone were singing in perfect harmony. But even as they celebrated this success, long-range sensors detected disturbing patterns in deep space. The void singers were moving, their discord spreading across star systems. They weren't just coming, they were coming soon. Sarah stood with Crystal Bell in the resonance hall, watching the global network of crystal spires pulse with combined human and alien music. "Will it be enough?" she asked, voicing the fear they all carried. Crystal Bell's response came as both words and music, a harmony of hope and determination. Alone, neither of us could stand against the void. Together, we have created something new. Not just defense, evolution. The universe itself will remember this song. The Symphony Project had succeeded in ways no one had initially imagined. They hadn't just built a weapon or a shield. They had created a new way of understanding and manipulating reality itself. Now they would find out if this harmony of two species would be enough to save them both from the silence that threatened to consume everything. They came without warning. The first sign was a disruption in the quantum harmonics near Neptune, a discordant note in the solar symphony that made every crystal sensor in the system shatter simultaneously. Dr. Sarah Chen was awakened by the emergency alerts at 3:47 a.m., her phone vibrating with a frequency that made her teeth ache. The resonance hall was already in chaos when she arrived. Maya's holographic displays showed waves of destructive interference spreading through the solar system, while James Kumar worked frantically to adapt their defensive algorithms. The harmonious present were vibrating in distress, their crystalline forms clouded with patterns none of them had seen before. "They're not just coming." Crystal Bell's voice carried an unmistakable tremor. "They're already here. They've been hiding in the quantum foam, waiting, learning our frequencies." The void singers emerged like anti-music made manifest, vast, dark shapes that absorbed light and sound, leaving behind only silence. The outer defense arrays, stationed near Jupiter's orbit, didn't even have time to activate before they were reduced to their component atoms, their carefully tuned frequencies scattered to the cosmic wind. "We're losing the Kuiper Belt monitoring stations," James reported, his voice tight with controlled panic. "The discord is spreading faster than our models predicted. At this rate, they'll reach Earth in less than 72 hours. Sarah felt the weight of billions of lives pressing down on her shoulders as she studied the data streams. The Void Singers weren't just powerful. They were smart. They'd observed Earth's defenses, found the harmonics that would cause maximum disruption. This wasn't going to be a battle. It was going to be a massacre unless they could find a way to change the game. Then she noticed something odd in the sensor readings. "Maya, look at this," she called, highlighting a particular frequency pattern. "The Void Singers, they're not just destroying our defensive harmonics. They're using them, turning them back on us somehow." Maya's eyes widened as she analyzed the data. "They're learning from us, adapting our own frequencies to enhance their discord. It's like they're performing a dark mirror version of our harmony protocol." The revelation sparked an idea. Sarah turned to Crystal Bell, who had been unusually quiet. "You said humans were different because we could improvise, create new patterns. What if that's not enough anymore? What if we need to go further?" Before Crystal Bell could respond, a new alert blared through the facility. A Void Singer had broken through the outer system defenses and was approaching Mars, the red planet's protective resonance field. A test bed for the Earth Defense Network lasted barely minutes before collapsing. They watched in horror as the planet's quantum structure began to unravel, its very atoms losing coherence. But in that destruction, Sarah saw their salvation. "Look at the harmonic patterns. The Void Singers don't just destroy. They have to establish their own resonance first. They're not immune to frequency manipulation. They just operate on principles we haven't understood." Working against time, Sarah and Maya began recalibrating the Symphony Project's core algorithms. Instead of trying to maintain perfect harmony, they programmed and controlled discord, deliberate imperfections that could adapt and shift. Crystal Bell and the other Harmonious initially recoiled from the concept. It went against everything their species believed in, but the evidence was undeniable. "You're jazz musicians," Crystal Bell said slowly, its crystalline form pulsing with new understanding. "They don't just improvise within rules. They know when to break them." The next 48 hours were a blur of activity as they transformed the Earth Defense Network. Traditional musical structures were interwoven with aleatory compositions, random elements that couldn't be predicted or countered. They incorporated everything from microtonal scales to noise music, creating a defense system that was less like a shield and more like a living, evolving organism. The first real test came as the Void Singers approached the moon. Earth's satellite had been fortified with some of their strongest resonance generators, but Sarah knew they wouldn't hold against a direct assault. Instead, they used the moon's facilities differently, as a massive sonic probe to study their enemy's true nature. What they discovered changed everything. "They're not destroying harmony," Sarah announced to the Emergency Council of Human and Harmonious Leaders. "They're enforcing it. The Void Singers believe in one perfect frequency: absolute silence. They're trying to eliminate what they see as noise, life itself." This understanding led to a radical shift in strategy. Instead of trying to maintain stable harmonics, they began preparing to weaponize Earth's natural chaos. The planet's magnetic field fluctuations, atmospheric turbulence, even the random firing of neurons in human brains, all became part of a new kind of defense, one that embraced unpredictability as strength. But time was running out. The Void Singers had reached the inner solar system, their discord already affecting Earth's delicate quantum fields. Communications began to fail as the fundamental forces holding reality together started to fluctuate. In some areas, gravity itself became unreliable. In the resonance hall, Sarah worked with Crystal Bell to complete the final modifications to their defense system. Around them, the facility's crystal spires hummed with strange new frequencies, beautiful and terrible all at once, a symphony of ordered chaos that made conventional music seem pale and limited in comparison. "If this works," Sarah said, watching the Void Singers approach on their quantum sensors, "it will change everything we thought we knew about harmony and discord, order and chaos." Crystal Bell's response was both resignation and revelation. Perhaps that was always the point. Evolution comes not from perfect adherence to old patterns, but from the courage to find new ones. As the first waves of discord reached Earth's atmosphere, Sarah activated the modified harmony protocol. The planet itself began to sing, not with perfect harmony, but with something far more powerful: the endless, unpredictable, beautiful chaos of life itself. The sky above Nevada rippled like a heat mirage, as reality itself wavered under the Void Singers' assault. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the resonance hall, surrounded by displays showing the battle unfolding across the solar system. Earth's modified defense network pulsed with new frequencies, a cascade of controlled chaos that refused to submit to the enemy's attempts at enforced harmony. "Western Quadrant is holding," Maya reported, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "The randomized frequency shifts are working. They can't lock onto our patterns long enough to disrupt them." The display showed the Void Singers' attempts to impose their deadly silence being deflected by ever-changing waves of sound. But not everything was going well. James Kumar's voice cut through the chamber. "Eastern seaboard defenses are failing. The quantum fluctuations are too intense. We're losing coherence in the upper atmosphere." The displays showed a massive Void Singer descending through the stratosphere, its presence alone causing aircraft to fall from the sky, as local physics began to break down. Crystal Bell, its form now streaked with patterns that would have been considered blasphemous by its people just days ago, moved to interface with the main control crystal. "We must extend the Chaos Protocol to the orbital platforms. The enemy adapts too quickly to fixed defensive positions." Sarah nodded, already calculating the adjustments needed. They discovered that the Void Singers, for all their power, were fundamentally rigid in their approach. They sought to impose perfect silence, perfect order, and that was their weakness. They couldn't comprehend, let alone counter, systems that embraced randomness and change. Humanity's greatest weapons turned out to be its most chaotic creations. Free jazz, experimental electronic music, even the complex polyrhythms of traditional African drumming, all became templates for defensive algorithms that could shift and evolve faster than the Void Singers could analyze them. The Harmonious provided the technological framework, but it was human creativity that gave it its power. "Look at this," Maya called out, highlighting a particular data stream. The Void Singers, they're starting to interfere with each other. Their attempts to impose different versions of perfect harmony are creating conflicts in their own ranks. Sarah saw it too. Where multiple Void Singers overlapped their effects, their rigid frequencies clashed, creating zones of instability that weakened their attack. It was like watching several conductors trying to force an orchestra to play different pieces simultaneously. The result was chaos. But chaos they could use. We need to amplify those conflicts, Sarah decided. James, reconfigure the lunar arrays. Don't try to block their frequencies. Reflect them back, slightly out of phase. Let them fight themselves. The strategy worked better than they'd hoped. As the reflected frequencies created interference patterns among the Void Singers, their perfectly coordinated assault began to fragment. Some of them started to retreat, their fundamental structure disrupted by their own deflected harmonics. But the victory was far from complete. A particularly massive Void Singer, which Crystal Bell designated as an alpha, descended directly toward the Symphony Project facility. Its approach caused the crystalline spires to vibrate with increasing intensity, threatening to shatter them. It's targeting our command and control, Maya realized. It knows we're coordinating the defense from here. Sarah felt a moment of pure clarity. No, she said, it's not just targeting our facility. It's trying to silence the source of the chaos, human creativity itself. It sees us as the infection in its perfect universe. The Alpha Void Singer's attack was like nothing they'd encountered before. It didn't just try to impose silence. It began emitting a frequency that sought to synchronize with human brainwaves, trying to force human consciousness itself into rigid, unchanging patterns. People throughout the facility began to struggle, their thoughts becoming sluggish and linear. But Sarah had spent months working with the harmonious, learning to think in frequencies and vibrations. She recognized what was happening and knew how to fight it. Everyone, she called out, her voice carrying through the facility's crystal-enhanced acoustics. Think about music, not just one song, all of them. Every piece you've ever heard, all at once. Embrace the chaos in your minds. The human staff responded instinctively, their thoughts becoming a cacophony of remembered melodies, rhythms, and harmonies. The harmonious, led by Crystal Bell, added their own consciousness to the mix, their crystalline forms resonating with patterns that would have been impossible months ago. The combined mental chaos created a psychic interference pattern that the Alpha couldn't process. Its attempt to impose order on human consciousness backfired, creating feedback loops in its own structure. The massive entity began to oscillate wildly, its perfect form disrupted by the very complexity it sought to eliminate. Now, Sarah commanded, full power to the primary arrays. Give it all the chaos it can handle. Every crystal spire in the facility, every defense platform in orbit, every quantum resonator on the planet activated simultaneously, not in harmony, but in calculated discord. The Alpha Void Singer found itself trapped in a web of conflicting frequencies, each one shifting and changing too rapidly for it to counter. The entity's destruction was both beautiful and terrible to witness. Its perfect form began to fracture, breaking apart into smaller and smaller pieces until it dissolved into quantum foam. The release of energy created auroras visible across the globe, a spectacular display of light and color that seemed to celebrate the triumph of chaos over rigid order. As the Alpha's destruction rippled through the Void Singer ranks, their coordinated assault began to collapse. Some fled back into deep space, while others, caught in the cascading waves of human-generated chaos, followed their leader into quantum dissolution. Sarah stood with Crystal Bell, watching the enemy retreat. We've driven them back, she said, but they'll return. They can't accept a universe that doesn't conform to their idea of perfection. Crystal Bell's response carried new harmonics of understanding. Then we will be ready. Our species has learned that true strength lies not in perfect harmony, but in the balance between order and chaos. The universe itself is a symphony of both. The battle was won, But Sarah knew the war was far from over. Humanity and the Harmonious had discovered a new way of looking at reality itself, one that embraced complexity and change rather than fearing it. As she watched the last Void Singer signatures vanish from their sensors, she realized that they hadn't just defended Earth. They had evolved, becoming something neither species could have achieved alone. 3 months after the first major victory against the Void Singers, Earth had transformed. Crystal spires dotted every continent, their frequencies interweaving with the planet's natural rhythms. The Symphony Project had evolved from a defensive system into something far more profound, a new way of existing that blended human chaos and harmonious order into something unprecedented in the universe. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Global Resonance Center, formerly the Symphony Project facility. The chamber now served as both a defensive command center and a nexus for continuing evolution of human harmonious cooperation. The holographic displays showed the vast network of quantum sensors extending throughout the solar system, early warning systems for any return of the Void Singers. "They're gathering again," Maya reported, her voice calm despite the gravity of her words. Long-range sensors show multiple convergence points in the Oort cloud. "This time, they're not trying to hide their approach." James Kumar nodded, studying the data streams. "They've changed their strategy. The frequency patterns are different, more complex. They're trying to adapt to our chaos protocols." Crystal Bell, whose form now shimmered with an ever-changing array of patterns that would have been unthinkable to its people a year ago, interfaced with the main sensor array. "They do not come to destroy this time. They come to understand. Our victory has forced them to evolve." The displays confirmed Crystal Bell's assessment. The approaching Void Singers weren't moving with their previous rigid coordination. Their formation showed variation, attempts at unpredictability. They were learning, trying to incorporate the very chaos they had sought to eliminate. "They still don't truly understand," Sarah realized, watching their approach. "They're trying to systematize chaos, to turn unpredictability into just another form of order. They can't accept that true harmony comes from the balance between order and chaos." The human harmonious defense network had continued to evolve since their first victory. Every crystal spire now incorporated quantum computers that could generate new frequencies based on everything from weather patterns to human brainwave activity. The entire planet had become a vast instrument, capable of playing songs that could reshape reality itself. As the Void Singers entered the outer solar system, Sarah and her team initiated their new defensive protocols. But instead of meeting the enemy with pure chaos, they tried something different. The crystal spires began emitting frequencies that incorporated both structured harmonies and unpredictable variations, a true synthesis of both species' approaches to reality. "We're not going to fight them," Sarah announced to the assembled human and harmonious leaders. "We're going to teach them." The response was immediate and dramatic. The Void Singers' advance faltered as they encountered something they had never experienced before: harmony that didn't seek to impose order, and chaos that didn't threaten to destroy structure. It was a middle path, a way of existing that celebrated both pattern and variation. Some of the Void Singers began to resonate with the new frequencies, their forms shifting and changing as they struggled to process this new paradigm. Others resisted, trying to maintain their rigid pursuit of perfect silence. The conflict between these factions created spectacular displays of quantum interference, visible from Earth as auroras of impossible colors. Maya's sensors detected something unprecedented. The Void Singers. They are communicating with each other. Not just coordinating, but actually exchanging information. They're having a debate. Through their quantum sensors, they watched as the Void Singers society began to fracture and reform. Those that could adapt began to show signs of individual variation, their previously identical forms developing unique patterns. Those that couldn't cope with the change either retreated into deep space or dissolved into quantum foam, their rigid structures unable to maintain coherence in the face of evolution. Crystal Bell's voice carried new harmonics of wonder. "They were like we were, before we found humanity." trapped in old patterns, unable to see that growth requires both structure and freedom. Now they faced the same choice we did: evolve or fade away. The transformation of the Void Singers took weeks, during which Earth's defenses remained at full alert. But gradually, something remarkable emerged from the chaos. The surviving Void Singers began to attempt communication, not with the intent to destroy, but with genuine curiosity about this new way of existing. Sarah worked with Crystal Bell to establish contact, using their combined understanding of quantum harmonics to bridge the gap between three fundamentally different ways of perceiving reality. The conversations that followed were unlike anything in human or harmonious history, a three-way exchange of ideas that expanded all their understandings of what was possible. They were born from the first moments after the Big Bang. Sarah explained to the United Nations Assembly, when the universe was perfectly ordered, they saw the emergence of complexity as a threat to that perfection. But now they understand that the universe isn't meant to be frozen in perfect harmony. It's meant to grow, to change, to create new patterns while preserving the old ones. The cooperation that followed changed everything: human creativity and adaptability, harmonious understanding of quantum resonance, and the Void Singers' grasp of fundamental forces combined to create technologies and insights that none of them could have achieved alone. The crystal spires that had been weapons became tools of creation, allowing them to reshape matter and energy in ways that seemed like magic. 1 year after the first contact with the Void Singers, Sarah stood with Crystal Bell and a reformed Void Singer they called Deep Chord, watching a sunset that their combined technologies had made more beautiful than ever before. The sky shimmered with quantum harmonies visible to the human eye, while the air itself seemed to sing with the music of reality. "We thought we were preparing for war," Sarah said, "but we were really preparing for the next step in cosmic evolution. The universe doesn't want silence or chaos. It wants a song that includes everyone's voice." Crystal Bell's response merged with Deep Chord's quantum harmonics, creating a sound that was neither ordered nor chaotic, but transcendently both. The greatest symphony is the one that never ends, that always finds new variations on eternal themes. That is what life is meant to be. As the sun set on this new era, the crystal spires of Earth sang a melody that reached out to the stars. Not a battle cry or a lullaby, but an invitation to join in an endless dance of order and chaos, pattern and possibility, in which every voice could find its own perfect way to resonate with the cosmic symphony.